Hey guys! Welcome to the channel. Now I'm on time, it's the February plan with me. So let's get into it. My idea for my themes this year is highlighting different aesthetics that seem to mix and match within me. Last month I did my gamer side, now it's time for vintage cartographer. I know it's kinda weird. It's an aesthetic that I've only recently discovered from when I was looking through stickers. It started with buying cool stickers that looked like old maps, then getting more of those stickers, then getting more of those stickers, which then blossomed into this video. For this one, it's more of a vintage cartographer / vintage travel, especially because of my stickers that look like tickets and my stickers that look like stamps. For some of these, I actually printed out old maps to stick on that have a consistency of widths, because even with my collection of washi tapes that are in strips, I don't have enough of those map stickers to have a consistent line for 4 spreads. For this month's spreads, it's also another callback to my childhood hobby, which is making things out of trash and just stuff laying around the house. That's why you see me right now taking apart a paper bag. I wanted to try out the aesthetic looking spreads with like craft paper, so instead of buying craft paper, I just found this bag around my house. My cover page is gonna be an all brown map. Using the bag was actually a last minute decision I made on the day of making the spreads. I was gonna use some cream-colored dotted refill papers, but then I randomly decided I'm gonna use craft paper instead. So I used the main parts of the bag for the entire cover page. Using my new paper cutter, I tried making it fit perfectly to the page. But because I dismantled the bag with scissors, I didn't cut it evenly. I got my glue tape and used that to stick the craft paper onto the page. You'll be seeing a lot of ways to stick things in this video because I couldn't decide what to use. When I finished the left side, I did some preliminary drawings of how I wanted the cover to look. For the other side, I take out the other half of the bag and start cutting it up for the other page. Did some trimming using my paper cutter and my scissors, then I measured it against the notebook. This time, I used my really wide double-sided tape just to make the lines go all the way down. I wanted better coverage on the edges to make sure they don't flip up and fold while I'm flipping pages. And with double-sided tape, I can slowly lower the paper down. After fully sticking it down, I did more sketches trying to make a landmass that spans both pages so they come together as one cover page. I cut the paper crooked, so I tried using one of my washi tapes to stick both pages together and hide the awkward seam in the middle. The camera cut out while I was sketching out the lettering for February. It's another serif font like in January, but I used the font that I'll use for my wallpaper as reference. I get my working cup and pick out the colors I'll use for the spread, which right now are just all browns. I use the darkest one to color in the month lettering. I'm not sure if the brown shows up on camera. I usually would use a ruler for this, but I decided against it, giving way to the hand-drawn look. I used my dark brown pen to make the lines of the landmasses and islands, some of which look more like chicken nuggets than landforms. Added a few not sketched smaller islands, which are kinda scary, but I think it ended up okay. To add more interest, I added a secondary outline, which is something I see in a lot of old maps and fantasy maps. Some of the islands I grouped up with bigger chunks of land, but I didn't really have a plan for grouping them. Now comes the time-consuming part, coloring the islands in. After making it, I now think that I should have just used the same color for all the islands, but I was really worried of drying out the markers I have. So in total, I used 4 brown markers to make all the islands. To color them in, I trace around the edges first, then work my way across one line at a time. When that's done, I move on to the monthly. I take the sides of the bag to make corner decorations. I rip up one side of the paper to keep that handmade look, which gives it more of my intended effect. For this one, I still use my double-sided tape, which I actually use for most of this project because I have so much of it. I did the other corner the same way with the ripping of the paper, measuring, and sticking it on with double-sided tape. When that's done, I work on the grid. This was a bit more challenging than usual because I need to draw the grid accurately while drawing on the craft paper. So I use the dots as my guide, then extend my ruler past them so I can draw when the dots weren't there. Then for the corners that meet on the craft paper, I slowly draw both of them to see where they line up. Like last month, I used a line of washi tape to make the top part of the calendar. I like the clean line that it gives and also the fun change in color that I can't get with my markers. It also helps keep the paper down as I'm making lines. I then start making the actual lines of the calendar. It's a good thing February this year has a really nice box with just 4 weeks, and I don't even have to skip boxes for it. But there's a tiny secret to these boxes. They're not all even. The Mondays, Saturdays, and Sundays are all one space bigger than the other days. That's because my weekends are a lot busier than my weekdays at this point, so I'd rather have bigger spaces for those. To tie into the map design, I color in some land masses in the corner pieces that dodge around the calendar so I don't have to worry about writing over the markers. After the land masses, I make the day labels on the washi. I just use my own handwriting serif font to make it match the theme. I use a darker brown gel pen for this. Washi tapes I'm using aren't exactly the most accepting of pens, so to make sure it doesn't transfer, I dab them with the ink tissue I use per spread. Little did I know that this would take a lot of transfer proofing. You can see on the tissue how many perfect copies of the letters I was able to make just by using that ink that didn't soak in. For the month label, I do a quick sketch of what I want, then draw it in with my dark brown gel pen. Then off to easy writing of the month numbers with a light grayish brown pen. I get my map strip stickers and try to find one that fits the area on top of the spread. Some quick trimming later, then I stick it to the top. After a nap, then dinner, I work on my weeklies. For continuity, I printed out some slices of a map mirroring my map stickers. I wanted this specific all-brown look and have them be all the same width so that they make a more cohesive spread. These aren't as heavily decorated as my weeklies and stick to a general color palette, maybe until I actually have tasks written in them. I took inspiration from minimalist spreads on Pinterest and just modified them to match my theme. I trimmed my printed maps, then using my double-sided tape to stick them on. I've only fully sketched out the first week, so that goes by quickly. Quick trims on the edges and we're good. I also did the second week while I'm at it. I realized the overlap of the printed paper was making the inside edges crumple, so I looked for my normal tape dispenser and used that to make the overlap more flexible and have it lay flatter. I did more planning, then I started with the corner calendar. I just wrote down the dates, put a line of brown highlighter on the top, which is more muted than the markers I was using, then wrote on the marker with the darkest brown pen I had. The actual planning parts were just divided into 4. I really liked the format of my planner last year, but I wanted to try out some new formats now that I'm still on break and time schedules aren't as needed. This is basically just a daily to-do list and I wanted to try out a lot of designs. To help separate the boxes, I did a nice, easy highlighter line. The extra 8th box I just turned into a note section. With the lightest brown marker, I just write Feb Week 1. I repeat all the steps for the next 3 spreads just with increasingly darker marker colors for the week label. I also add this thing of highlighting the week that I'm on the top left calendar. As I keep doing the same thing without much change, I just want to have a quick chat and tell you guys more about me. Hi, I'm Maisie. I'm guessing most of you already know that, and I can't really pin down an aesthetic. I hope that through making these spreads about the stuff I love that it'll help you guys get to know me a bit more. But yeah, I don't really have an exact aesthetic. I wouldn't call myself a minimalist in the slightest. I'm more of a chaotic planner. I can survive with huge amounts of clutter as long as I know where everything is, which explains my desk. I don't want to pin myself down with specific styles. If I like something, I like it, and that's why my spreads right now and spreads to come are gonna be pretty varied. I'm not the best artist or calligraphy person, but I do love to craft. So I figure out ways to work around those limitations, like printing and painting. As I said in the start of this video, I love making random things from trash ever since I was a kid, and sustained that into some art hoarding, keeping parts of cardboard boxes, old toys, packaging, styrofoam, and plastic bottles. One of my pen cups is a unicorn I made from a plastic bottle, and the other pen cups are other old packaging. I might make an art project on camera one of these days with my current hoard of materials and maybe teach you guys how I make my unicorn pen cups, which is kinda a staple for me at this point. So yeah, let's get back to the weeklies. I felt like something was missing, so I added a weekly shows area up there, cause I realized that I watch a lot of anime weeklies, so I need a place where I can track the anime I'm watching without having to consult my monthly all the time. I have a bunch of scraps left over from the bag, so I decided to bring in that craft paper back into the spread as paper for the notes section. I cut them into generally the same size and stuck them onto the page. I was planning to go for that hand-ripped edge like the monthly, but with all the straight lines of the papers on here, it doesn't really fit, and with the size of the scraps that I had, ripping them wouldn't give me much space to write. I stuck them on with more double-sided tape. So the next day, I started on the habit trackers. I was inspired by top-down shots of the UN logo and some of my stickers to try out this habit tracker format. Here comes my crafty nature again, as I make a compass to help me draw concentric circles. It's basically a piece of cardboard with markings every centimeter. For the circles, I just stick the end of a comb in there so it doesn't destroy the paper, then put a pencil through the other end, then spin. It's a bit too long and bumped into stuff on my desk, so I cut it a bit shorter. I redid a few circles on the left and drew the circles on the right. But to go with that handmade look, I didn't use the cardboard compass in making the circles. I just drew them in by hand with my light brown pen. It took a little bit of spinning the notebook to get it at the right angle for drawing round shapes, and so after all of that, it's not that even, but I don't mind. I have 12 habits to track, so I make 2 circles because I needed enough space. When the circles were done, I used my pencil to divide up the circle like a pizza and see how many slices I'll have to make to have enough days for the month. Turns out, I can divide it into 30 seconds. Then just keep a section of 4 not lined for the labels. If that seems pretty complicated, it's basically dividing each slice of pizza in half 2 extra times than the normal 8 slice. I'm not sure if that makes any sense. So I did that in the light brown pen that I've been using for most of my spreads. I also finished the drawing for the other side. For more cohesiveness with the other spreads, I bring in more of that scrap craft paper. To help make the spread look cleaner, I add a circle I cut out to the middle of the 2 habit trackers. I use it to cover up the middle connection point to make it not look as messy. I then get my glue stick and use that to stick the paper. Okay, why glue stick? I used a glue stick because I wanted to get as much of the edges covered as I can, and I don't want to waste time cutting double-sided tape into circles. To get good contrast, I used the darkest brown pen and wrote down the 12 habits I want to track. These are all habits I want to develop, but for some of them, I just want to keep track of how often I do them regularly before really putting effort into doing them. For the decoration, I get my stickers that inspired the spread and put them beside the other circles. In my serif handwriting, I just put habit tracker on the bottom in a brown marker. A bit more decoration with my map strips and my vintage travel foil stickers. I took the trimming from the bottom and just put it back on the top as more decoration. I wish I would have put it under the circle sticker though. The last spreads are my sleep and exercise trackers. These are about the same as before, so I'll just breeze through them. I start by writing down the numbers and the units from the side and top. Just made a quick box around it so it could be away from the decorations. Did a quick color code for my exercise tracker on the side. I wrote sleep tracker in the wrong chart, so to help cover that up, I just cut another scrap of craft paper from the bag and write the correct header names on them, which I used the same serif font. Some quick double-sided tape later and no one knows the difference. And I also got to incorporate the craft paper into the spread again. I did some erasing of pencil lines and I free-handed more land masses. Another montage of me coloring that in. Making a weird island, then another island, then another island. Then me deciding that that one island looked weird and it would be more fun with the map sticker that I cut to size and fit the curve. This video is probably pretty long considering my tendency to ramble, so here's a quick recap of my wallpaper. I always make my wallpaper before I make my spread, so I have a practice run of the look I'm going for. So for this one, I pulled up photos of more D&D inspired fantasy maps. So I started off using circles to make my main landmasses and islands, then actually drew the shoreline around those circles as a guide. Added more random islands just to add more interest. I did the same outlining thing I did for the cover that makes it look more authentic. I kept drawing those circles around everything. When that's all done, I connect my shapes together to make the actual islands from the lines I put down. After connecting them, I had to do some adjustments because they started making weird shapes because of the overlaps. I bring up a pre-made paper texture under all my shapes so I wouldn't have to spend how many hours trying to perfect the texture. Then I just change all the colored lines into a brown color. To make the sea, I put a dark blue layer over everything, then use the island shapes to kinda cookie cutter them out of the blue backdrop. Some opacity changes later and it looks like an ocean. Using the same water technique, I draw out some big lakes in the main landmass and just put February on it to kinda act as a map label. To make easy mountain ranges, I just make a hill shape, then just paste them around. Then one big mountain just to make it look different. Last part is just making the calendar like usual and coloring it in with the same brown as the rest of the map. So here's my final wallpaper and my spreads for the month. I hope you guys liked today's video. I had a lot of fun with trying out new spreads. Maybe I'll actually make some crafts on camera. What do you think about the spreads? Any suggestions for monthly themes? Leave them in the comments below. If you found this video interesting, hit the like button, and if you want to see more videos like this from me, then hit the subscribe button and the bell to know when a new video is out. I try to upload every week, Monday nights at 8. I guess that's all for this video. Bye guys!